All right, welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Matt Hamilton, this is Dr. Jacqui Taylor, and we are wellness experts, and we're here tonight to share some information with you. And I feel as though for us is that we would like to boldly step out and make an impact and change our kind of current paradigm when it comes to our healthcare system. As currently is like how we're going to go through it, the paradigm we live in is just purely sick care, and it drives us crazy. So we're going to kind of like hopefully share some information with you tonight. I've put on a little bit of a gift for you in regards to just some nibbles and snacks, because we understand that 6 o'clock is not the easiest thing for our tummies for the most of us that have just left work or been on the fly. So if you are bounced out at any time throughout the night, feel free. You can actually welcome to step up. Don't feel obliged of kind of walking up. But anyway, please help yourself, and it'll be there for the end of the night if you want to stay around, hang out and mingle for a little bit. But if anything, when it kind of comes to us as a dad of 3 kids at home, is punctual and kind of getting this information out to you as best I can, is that we're going to start, and anyone that misses out that's not in the seat tonight is just going to have to come in red hot in the middle of a sentence. So, like this person? No? So, the reason why I've done tonight's about, it's a bit of a dramatic statement about which foods are killing you. And I know it was a bit strong on the front, and my wife Kyna, who's chiropractor as well, owner of the practice and myself, with Dr. Jacqui, and there's Dr. Andrew, and she says like, oh my God, which foods are killing you? First thing that you walk through the door, that's super strong. So what I would like to do is we want to break down a few things in regards to how we do things. Yep, we're all going to point at you. No, I'm joking, you go on then. It's 6:30. Anyone at 6:30? No, 6:15. But anyway, come on through, find a seat. That's okay. That's all right. We're all got you. We already talked about you a little bit. So we're going to cover a few things. I want to jump straight in, so you haven't kind of missed too much anyway. But the agenda of tonight is regards to the things that we know to be true, things that we believe to be true. I'm going to question the mark that. We're going to put a little bit of a space around what's going to be covered. But we're going to cover a few things first. We're going to cover a few things around dairy. Dairy being, a good source of calcium and being good for your bones. We're going to be talking about cereal and toast as a good start to the day. These are all the things that you've heard, right? Mm-hmm. Yep, shake your head, yeah. Canola oil is healthy and low in fat. Yep, everyone's kind of heard of that. Yep, and we walk through the food aisle and we kind of understand that. We see that gets shouted at us a lot. Agreed? Yeah, and we're also going to be talking about the soy cappuccino, a healthy alternative. Yep, that might be kind of some time. We're going to kind of break down a few of those things. So if it's okay, I'd just like to dive in. Is that all right? Yeah. Yep. All right. Now, to be fair, Jacqui and I, we're going to kind of let's kind of jump straight into dairy, right? Because we're going to go straight. So you'll probably find is that if anything was to happen tonight, it is that you actually need to stop us, not make us say more. Is that we've actually got Adriana at the back to ring the bell on us to kind of keep us moving, because we could just keep on going. And I know that you guys eventually want to go home and sleep tonight. So for good reason, Jacqui and I will riff off and we'll kind of give you a bit of ideas. And absolutely, it's not going to be a full question answer, but we do want a little bit of feedback from you guys. This is not a seminar or a lecture where we're just going to seagulls just vomit down information for you and expect for you just to kind of receive it at all. Participation and the experience of tonight is valuable enough in order for you guys to make action. Agreed? So absolutely.
One thing here, sorry. You're going to have some literature to take with us after this, or should we write stuff down, or what's going on?
You should definitely write stuff down.
No worries.
But if there is questions, we're absolutely here. And if there is follow-up, and if there's anything that kind of sparks for you that goes like, Matt, I remember the other night that you said this, this, and this, and this. Can you point me in the direction of that? Or, just by any means, send us an email. This is an open relationship that we're starting here in regards to this stuff, and we're happy to help. But no, I don't necessarily have, a whole portfolio program to give you for tonight. So,
it's all good.
Yeah, and what it will mean is that, we want to do this again. And we'll talk about that towards the end of the night. So if this creates more questions for you, let's do it again. Let's come back and let's just upskill, right? So, dairy. Do you want to start with dairy there, Jacqui?
Happy to start with dairy. So, who is of the opinion that dairy is good for you? Can you tell me why?
Yeah,
anyone, Brad?
It was good for the bones.
Good for your bones, calcium. Yeah. Anyone else?
There's obviously more trace elements in there that we assume they're good for you because you feed a baby.
Yes. Yeah. Mother's milk.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that association, it's someone else's milk, so
Not
it's probably...
necessarily mother's milk, but I mean, afterwards, the dairy product when you feed the child.
Oh, like the formula maybe, like yeah, breast milk, and then after breast milk you have cow's milk.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, it's often practiced.
The dairy bit is pasteurised milk, isn't it?
Here we go. Yeah.
Yes.
Anything good in there has been what a lot has gone into the air.
Ah,
Yes.
here we go.
Yeah, so
Nothing there's white, just a bit of white water. Yeah.
raising some questions. Well, is it just white water though? So if we're pasteurising it, and we're superheat treating it, and we're killing all of the nutrients, and we're killing all the cofactors that allow you to absorb it, okay? Anyone have any idea what's left?
I think they just put like chemicals, like the vitamins back in.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes they do. And a lot of the times they've got some extra chemicals added to homogenise it so that you don't have to shake and remix your fat so that it keeps all of the fat bubbles all mixed through the mixture. But has anyone actually had a think about what it's doing in regards to calcium then? Is it a good source of calcium? Hands up. Who says yes? Who says no? So is it a full cream milk? Is it a good source of calcium? If it's a yes, put your hand up.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got
Well, it
3
has-
brain cells, 4, 5. Okay. Who says no?
Yeah.
We've got about an evenly split room, and there's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of you that didn't put your hands up at all. Okay. Feeling like this might be
playing
a
the
trick
game,
question.
I get it.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. That's not unfair. So the problem with it is that when we actually drink pasteurised dairy, it actually acidifies the pH in our blood. So what do? There was calcium in it. There is calcium in it. But when we actually eat it, because it's acidified our blood, what do we need in terms of our blood? Is acidic blood okay for our body to function and all our cells to operate? I'm getting some head shaking. Anyone want to have a go at why?
Well, because we need to be alkaline. Our blood is 7.36 or thereabouts, and that's alkaline. So
Yep, yep.
If you put too much acid in there, then the body has to adjust it to.
And so what does it do to adjust it? How do we get back to that magic 7
It
or
steals
so?
alkalised material from parts of the body that has it, like the bones,
Correct.
calcium, magnesium,
Correct.
manganese, etc.
Okay.
And
So-
you end up with lighter bones.
Correct. So there's actually, in order to buffer the blood and to get you back into that optimal pH range that we need for every single cell in the body to function, we're actually mobilising calcium that you've gone through all the hard effort to store in your bones, and we're mobilising that back out as a rapid way to deacidify the blood and to bring it back into a neutral pH. So when we're consuming this, we're actually net losing calcium, because what we gained from the milk, we actually lost more from our bones in buffering it than what we actually gained and took on board. Who feels like calcium's a great source coming from cow's milk now?
So it does have calcium. We just can't absorb
Yeah.
it and utilise it. A lot of the cows, they get their calcium in from milk, right? No, they don't.
No, where do they get it from?
They get it from grass and green leafy vegetables. Sorry?
Cheese does that have the same effect?
Same effect.
Same effect.
Same effect. Same effect.
Yeah.
It's
So-
just the cheese is still a dairy product, but it just has swings. So basically, all dairy products swing in this relationship of protein, fat, and sugar, right? So it's all this kind of curve. You like if the protein's really, really high, like a hard cheese, for example, and it's going to have less fat depending on how soft the cheese is, you know. And you're playing this kind of curve game in our dairy products. But let's go back to the dairy product itself, right? Is that? Oh, sorry. Quickly.
What about A2 milk?
Here we go. I was
Great
just about
question.
to answer that question there for you. You're ahead of me.
Okay.
Knuckles. So what we're talking about here is how milk has changed, right? So we've got basically back in the day before we pasteurised it, before we homogenised it, you know, the whole pasteuriser is boiling it up super hard so all the bacteria... I'll come back to that in just a sec. But there was... we used to have raw dairy. Basically, milk the cow, drink the milk... Now, when the mother cow is feeding a baby calf, even the baby calf doesn't have all the goodness in it to break down the milk, right? So the milk itself has all the enzymes that the calf needs to break down the milk in the first year of life to go from 30 kilos to 400 kilos in 1 year of life. That's some serious growing, right? So this is serious growth fluid, right? It's perfect. So then we go, okay, well, it's the different type of cow. So what's changed over this time? So A1 and A2. Have we heard these numbers before? There are two different versions of cows, right? A1, which is funny because you'd think that'd be first, is actually the genetically modified cow. It is the
It's your
Frisian
Friesians.
cow. That's the black and white cow, right? And it's been genetically modified over the years to produce a higher milk yield, right, over a longer period of time. Dairy farmers, perfect, love it. You know, we can make more milk, right? But it is a different cow, and it's a cow that's been kind of put together over time to basically be a production cow. The brown Jersey cow is your A2. Now, the difference in the milk protein of these two cows is the A2 protein of the dairy is a closed chain protein. Basically, it is like, so when it goes through the system, it is closed. The difference being an A1 is an open chain. It has two sticky ends on it. So as it moves through our body and our system, it starts to stick and interact with like our gut wall, our immune system, and interacts with it in a different way. And it is basically more interactive, and it creates autoimmunity and immune, let's say, irritation through our nervous system and our gut wall. And as a result, our immune system has to have an impact, or let's say defend itself against, right? More so than definitely the A2, which is more closed. Not to say is that people can still react to the A2 milk. They absolutely can, depending on the sensitivity of their immune system in such a way. But that's the difference, is that when A2 milk was reintroduced specifically, rather than just mixed up with the whole cattle and the crop, is that you would have a more, let's say, you would react to it less, yeah, compared to the black and white Frisian cow, the A1. So from that process, it is then, like we've just discussed, it is boiled and pasteurized, boiled it to its nth degree. All the enzymes were kind of lost in it, all the goodness and all that good bacteria that like kind of build in. And then not only are we boiling it so far, and then homogenizing it, which is no one liked that little fat layer on the top. And that was purely just commercial. They would sit there, that little fat layer, they're like...
The milk bottles back in the day.
Correct. Yeah. Most of us in the room still remember the truck that used to come and deliver the milk bottles of glass, right?
The horse and buggy.
I know. I mean, like, it's pretty rough. I think myself as a bit of a young duck, and I was like, oh God, you know, now I'm still remembering this back in my day. I'm saying that now to my kids. It's rough. So yeah, they get rid of that. And how they do that, right, is they actually blast it with a high pressure. We're already 6 minutes into dairy. Jeepers, oh my God. Well, they blast it with like a super high pressure through a high sieve, right? So it's a tiny little sieve like a fly wire, right? And under immense pressure like a fire hose, they cut up and they break up all those fat cells, right? So all of a sudden now all that little fat is now kind of also broken up, right?
Short chain.
It's all
Whereas
short chain.
long chain was what it was, and we wanted long chain. Long chain's good.
Because long chain's slower, like it's slower uptake and it's more lasting, right? So, and then what we wanted to do now is, and we'll kind of go as to kind of why the fat shift kind of changes, is that everything moved to high-low, right? Everything moved to skim milk. Agreed? Yeah. So we're going to be a fat scat. And then you kind of talk about dairy. It's like, yeah, I love my dairy. I have a glass of milk every day. But now they're having like skim milk. It's like, you know what you're actually having? Like, the fat was actually probably the favourable and most best part if dairy was kind of to be included. It's the fat that you actually wanted. If you take the fat out, what's left? White water. But what's making up the water? Because it's not actually it's not water because it's not clear. It's sugar. Yeah. It's all galactose. It's just the sugar. All that milk is fat and sugar, and if you take out the fat, you're just having sugar. So then you go like, oh, okay, I'm just having a bowl of sugar water. Isn't that depressing? You're just having white water. You're just having white sugary water.
Hey, you know the A2 you were saying, right? So I just go, I don't even know enough about it, say 1 and 2. I'd go and get it. If I get milk, I just go and get milk and buy it.
Yep.
How do you know what's A1, A2 with it?
It is very well branded now.
Is it?
Yeah. So you'll
Say
see it
it.
in the aisle. It'll say
Okay,
A2.
I'll have to look because I never did. So anyway, but I don't have a lot of milk now anyway. But I mean, it's just good.
If
to
the
know.
little bit that you have, you'll choose A2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Happy with dairy?
Yeah,
Sheep
questions.
milk and goat milk. What about them?
So goats A2,
Goat, yeah.
goats A2, sheep's also A2.
Yeah.
So they're okay.
And
Bit harder to find in the dairy aisle.
better, bit stronger flavour, but also their protein size is, if you think about a baby sheep, baby goat, baby human, all a similar size, they've got a more appropriate protein size for our gut. So they generally tend to be less reactive, but of course an allergy is still possible.
It seems to me that the bottom line of it's just not natural to continue having milk past 2 or 3 or 4 years old.
It's actually 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the natural weaning age they've worked out, because all babies on the planet are born with a very, very high ability to break down the lactose, the sugar, in order to actually metabolise the milk. Because if we didn't, none of us would be here. We would have died out as a species generations ago. But what it is that all babies are fine to have it. And we know that the natural weaning age is about 7 in cavemen. Not saying that you want to wean your kids at 7 necessarily in our communities, but because we still have, across the majority of the population, a relatively decreasing but still present ability to produce lactase, which is what we break down lactose with. Now, babies have heaps. As we get towards 7, it gets less and less. But you might have still been feeding an older child if they're sick or unwell a long time ago. What we see is, though, in some individuals, their ability won't just end up as a very low level then in their adult years, but it will actually go to 0. And that's your lactose intolerance, because they don't have any lactase activity beyond 7 at all. Does that help? Yeah, so definitely different parts of the population.
It was actually a similar question. So I've got young children at home, so
Yeah.
I was curious about what the process is. If you change it with adults, obviously, how do you then, they're in the same household, they're eating similar food, how do you adapt it for kids to still have some level of dairy, and what type of dairy?
So I guess the question is, like, we're not coming out to sort of say dairy is off the cards and every dairy product is bad for everyone, right? That's probably not the case. We're probably talking about more of the kind of houses, like if you're having gut reactions in your guts, like, playing up and you've kind of got questions in through there, these are your high percenters. These, like, we wanted to let you know that food's changed. Food's changed a lot, and there is a production process that, which I'll go through a little bit later as to why. But you might ask the question, is that like, yeah, okay, dairy and high, let's say, highly processed dairy is probably not something that you want in all the time. But let's say fermented yogurt, that's okay, right? That's kind of gone through, it's got some culture in it, it's got some benefit for you, that's okay. You probably don't want the really high sugary Yoplait, but if you had like a really good kind of fermented pot set yogurt, that's great. Butter, fantastic.
Yeah.
Great, strong animal fat, use it everywhere, like scoop it into your baby. There's like, we can really
Put it in
use
your
that,
coffee.
right? Yeah, it is wonderful. So, and then hard cheeses, so like they're okay. But the more sensitive you are, it'll show up. And what we sort of find is that definitely in practice, and you'll see it a lot with young kids, and then more so later with adults, because really that things are unchanging, is that like, if there are problems that are persisting, and there is a dietary component, and usually we know when adjustments aren't holding, or it's kind of like, a persisting sort of thing. It's like, first thing is like, how much dairy are you having? I was like, I'm having 4 coffees a day. I'm like, why? Right? So that is a problem not only just from a coffee thing, it's just like you're drinking a lot of milk. And you're telling me that you're trying to lose weight and you're kind of wired up and you're sort of sick, and, every time I have coffee, I feel a bit nauseous. It was like, why are you drinking your coffee? So anyway, so it's kind of like, where is it showing up? But like, I wouldn't sweepingly change that, but there might be some instances like the kids all like cereals and they have that in the morning. So, okay, well, that might be an alternative that you can kind of like maybe put something in place. And majority of the times kids just don't know. They don't care. As long as their cereal's cold and wet.
So I'm like, it's not going anywhere.
But it might be shit. Cheese and yogurt, yes. Glass of milk.
Yeah.
Maybe we could let that go.
So is it better to turn to alternative milks then? Are they better in any way?
Love your question. Can we loop?
We'll loop back to that.
We're coming back to that one later.
Yeah. Come back to that in the cappuccino.
One more question. The content of sugar in A2 compared to normal milk, how does that compare?
It's the same.
Same.
It's the proteins that are different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're choosing a less allergenic protein or a more allergenic protein.
Change gears. That took us 12. Okay, so...
So-
all right, that's good. It's good. I just want to fit it all in, guys. I just don't want you to miss out. So, all right. Cereals and grains. Cereals and grains and gluten. We want to go in this kind of concept in regards to like, okay, we know we're often sort of shared, the value of a healthy breakfast, yeah? Cereals, toast, sandwich for lunch.
Pasta and rice.
Yeah.
Dinner.
Pasta and rice for dinner. Is that most people's kind of schedule? For some, maybe not, right?
No? Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Okay.
Okay. So what is a grain?
What is a grain?
Well, what? Okay. So cereals and grains.
What?
What is cereal made of? What are the cereals? What is the base of most of cereals made of?
Grain, wheat.
Oats and
Wheat.
wheat.
Corn.
Yeah.
What is wheat? Oh, what is wheat? A grain. Oh, well, we're stuck in a loop. Yes, wheat. So wheat shows up, right? So I guess this is a conversation. This is probably something that's more, how can I say it? That is, we've lived a lifestyle. I know for my generation, my parents' generation, for a big part of that is that the fundamentals of wheat, bread, access to pastas, grains, rice, that access to that food has been the largest portion on the plate. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how has wheat... not how has wheat changed. What does wheat do? What does wheat do to the body?
Does rice fall into this category or rice?
It does to a lesser extent, but rice for the majority of things is reasonably harmless. It is just, calories. So... and it's probably the safest grain majority of the time that you can kind of consume on. Yeah. So wheat is fair game. Rice is fair game. Yeah. Wheat is problematic, right? Yeah. So let's kind of step back into there. This is probably the process. Are we more familiar now than ever before in the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years about how gluten and gluten-free is everywhere? Yeah, why?
Any ideas?
Any ideas? Is it just good marketing? Is it just is it just pushing it out from a marketing perspective to sell you something more expensive that tastes worse? People do react to gluten.
Yeah.
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 You can go.
And people react to gluten in 2 different ways. So people are reacting to the gluten, the actual gluten allergy, where they're reacting to it, and that is not only a gut-based reaction, but it's a pro-inflammatory reaction throughout the whole body. It not only inflames and causes gut problems locally, but we also see it all the way up into a really important system as well when it's reacting in our bodies. Anybody have any idea the furthest point from your gut that gluten affects?
The ankles.
I love that.
You're heading away, but maybe in the wrong direction.
Your brain.
Sorry?
Your brain.
The brain, that's right. One of the biggest side effects that we actually see of gluten is actually brain inflammation. And then we see long-term changes in the brain in response to exposures to gluten. And sometimes that's got nothing to do with being celiac. It is actually just reacting to gluten because gluten is so inflammatory and it loves to cross your blood-brain barrier. It also loves to ruin your gut and inflame it and make your gut leaky and then escape into your blood and then even further get into your brain. But we react to it in another way as well. Anybody have any idea, apart from the gluten itself, what else we might be reacting to when we're eating gluten-type foods?
Is that lectin? Is that what we're talking?
Lectin.
Sort of.
That's more tomato stuff.
Yeah. More so what's been done to it. Anybody know anything about what's been done to gluten? Because are we eating the same bread, rice, pasta as our great-grandparents?
No.
That's different, isn't it?
If not, why not?
Processed.
Processed is one part of it. Yep. Lots of the foods that it's in have been processed so that they are...
Additives and all that stuff.
And the ingredient list this long, half of them you don't understand the names of, and it certainly isn't your simple 5-ingredient baking anymore. But any idea how else it's changed? Chemical, GMO, yep. So we've made it so that it resists Roundup and glyphosate so that we can drench it in the stuff.
That's pretty crazy, right? Do you know everyone knows what Roundup is? It kills, you spray it on
Weed
your
killer.
weeds, right? So the Nobel Prize winner back in the 70s won this genetically modified crop that saved India, this iron corn wheat derivative. Saved a country. It was amazing. It grew shorter, so it didn't get blown over by the wind, and it was denser. And he was hailed as a Nobel Prize winner at the time for developing this crop and saving a country. It was amazing. But since then, because of its advantages, it actually has then not necessarily modified further. It was the exact type of thing, and as a result, that is the wheat that is now, let's say, populates the world. particularly the Western countries. And we all know, for those of you that had the advantage of like traveling to places like Italy and France and been through the Mediterranean, they still farm their own wheat, and it's locally sourced wheat, right? That you don't actually eat this genetically modified wheat.
Correct. It's the
Right?
heritage varieties.
It's the original wheat, right? So you go there and you can have the pizza and have the pasta, and guess what? You feel okay. But this new wheat is different, and it is so different. And what we're kind of talking about, the gluten is the reproductive protein, the germination kind of like pod that actually falls off right at the end of the cycle and falls to the ground to build another plant, right? So we take that protein off. It actually gets scooped up into the grain, right? When we kind of break it down. And what ends up happening, that reproductive protein, as it kind of comes into our system, the body sees it as foreign and begins to attack it, right? But if you were to take that protein, right, that grain, and compare it to the original heritage wheats that you'll see, and you look at it under the microscope, it actually looks like a different species. You could not call it wheat. It's a completely different thing. It just looks the same and acts the same, but it is completely different. So yes, on the package, we're eating wheat. But 50 years ago, they never would have called it wheat. And then, yes, we can talk about processing. We can talk about how from that stage of growing the wheat up, right? Yes, it's been exposed to herbicides, pesticides, and the like. Then in order to dry it out in that very last sort of phase is that they spray it with Roundup, which dries it out a bit further. And wheat as a crop is what? Is it white or is it brown? Brown, right? So they take the crop, right? And then they have to cut it out, mill it out, separate the husks, take that little bit, they ground it down, and then they bleach it. We're like, what? Okay, this is my dinner. Right? So they'll bleach it. So they'll bleach it to the white, and they'll grind it down so fine that that tablespoon of wheat can actually cover the surface area of a tennis court. Right? So it's super, super fine. You take that tablespoon and it covers the tennis, and you put that into your system. That covers every single cell of the gut lining of your gut wall instantly. Really? Like, it's really, really high surface area. It's faster than a teaspoon of brown sugar. Right? Brown sugar, crystallized brown sugar, takes time. But we know that that's super sweet, right? You take the same tablespoon of wheat and put that into your system, boom. Super high, right? So what's more dangerous to you, the slice of bread or the Mars bar? It's both sugar, right? Yeah. So it's kind of in that, like, it's changed, and it's changed a lot. And the whole production of that. And now they're trying to make it better for us, and they fortify it. You know, they fortified it with B vitamins to make it okay. You know?
So this gluten-free stuff, what they talk about, I had a mate, I didn't even worry about what he was on about, but he was saying he's gluten-free and all that. So that's the way to go then?
Look, okay, well, that is our way. Not the way, it is our way. We kind of understand is that, like, yes, so, like, I guess I'm just going to give you two angles here, and I think, you know, as I move to a bit of the paradigm shift in regards to what we're actually told to be healthy, is that, like, the common idea is that, like, eat exactly the same that you're eating right now, right? At the same quantities, the same proportions, but just change, you know, dairy to an alternative, and change all your wheat products to a gluten-free option, right? And you're eating the same sort of crappy stuff, I'll be honest. You're just eating lots and lots of sugar, and, you know, and it's just not going to taste as good. So you'd actually kind of need to rethink about how we kind of put food together on the plate. Is that we just don't need so much just to the alternative. For some of us, for breakfast, you know, like, yes, you're having like 2 slices of toast with like jam, and, you know, we're having a bowl of cereal or anything like that. It's like, you should just be having like eggs. And if it's really hard to just have like having eggs and bacon, or eggs and sausages, right, then you should just
shake.
You can have like a small slice of gluten-free toast to make yourself feel better, but it shouldn't need to be on the plate, because just remember, that's your sugar hit. And I think we've got way too much sugar that shows up in the diet.
Sourdoughs and stuff like that, where they fermented the product.
So obviously your sourdoughs, if you're going to choose an alternative here, much better to be going for a sourdough that's already broken it down and fermented it. It's going to be much more absorbable, much higher nutrient content. But the question is still, how much sugar is that into your diet?
Yeah. Sourdough's also changed. The sourdough that you buy at IGA is like 45 minutes sourdough. The sourdough that you would buy at some bakeries would be maybe a day, a day and a half. The traditional sourdoughs that people like do at home, they might do 3-day sourdoughs. You eat that and you feel good because a lot of that breakdown's already happened. Like the starter sourdough, right, has got so much goodness. All that fermentation actually populates the microflora and microbiome of your gut. It's really like contributing to a nice symbiotic nature in regards to that, and it's quite heavy in protein as well. Like you're getting a lot more value than that slice of Wonder White in a huge way. In a huge way, right? In a huge way. Can I also just break down, while I've got a couple of minutes, we didn't kind of touch on this, and like we just fell into what the concept of leaky gut, right? And really kind of what happens when we have a reaction, whenever our immune system kind of turns on, right? When our immune system turns on and makes a reaction to a foreign protein like gluten, right? It starts an inflammatory cascade. So now I want you to kind of look at almost like a reaction to the skin. Our outside skin and our inside skin is the same. So sometimes you'll feel there's a bit of a tell. If people are having gut problems, they might also have skin problems, right? They might have a rash and they think that sometimes they can't clear, eczema, dermatitis, those sorts of things. Is that what happens is that we eat and our body starts to react to the protein, inflammation sort of starts. And then what happens, particularly from gluten, is that we've got all these cells and our cell walls all lined up like this. We've got these proteoglycans, which are like little binding sort of things that stick the cells together. And then what happens is that due to the constant reaction and inflammation and obviously these kind of products, it actually weakens. Do you know what does this is really bad as well? Like things like Nurofen, right? Terrible at doing this. Yeah. It reacts these binding sort of like little proteins between the two cells, and as a result it gets weak and it splits open. And now you've got two cells that are open that is creating the outside world, which is our gut, to our inside world, which is our bloodstream. What then happens, you have undigested food particles, now like gluten or dairy or whatever's kind of reacting into this kind of mix, starts to pass through into our bloodstream, right? And then our immune system has gone, frick, we've lost control, and we now have to fight an immune response systemically over the body. That's where findings stuff like arthritis, joint pain, headaches, you know, like it's way more than just like, oh, I'm feeling a bit full and bloated. That's where it starts to kind of cascade to that. And as a result, because of the high inflammatory response that you're having as a result, your immune system becomes hyperactive, right? Because it just hates it. It does not like that it's lost control. It is going to have a more excessive response the next times it sees it. So as a result, it starts to kind of climb up. And then we get this autoimmune hyperactivity kind of response as our body learns to defend itself. And there are certain sort of tissues that look very similar to certain proteins that we kind of continually expose ourselves to. So yeah, it kind of falls in sort of that way. So there's this kind of cascade of events, you know, and often the case is that you can generally go through a process of elimination, like you calm the nervous system, calm the gut, rebind, get your gut wall solid again. And then you can actually start to reintroduce foods, and guess what? You won't have much of a reaction, or you'll have less of a reaction because your body and nervous system's got the capacity to be able to handle it. I just didn't want to go full doom and gloom on you, you know, like those guys walking out here just been having like celery sticks for the rest of your life. You know, like there's capacity that our immune system has. It's amazing, right? It can handle. You can go out for dinner and you can enjoy the bread because you know the bread at a nice restaurant tastes really yummy, right? But not every day. Not every day. All right. Veg oils. Look, when they cover the next kind of couple, I think the veg oils kind of come into canola oil, right? If you go down the freezer aisle, what is stamped on every frozen food that you put in the oven? What is that? It's this little red corner, and it will say 99% what? Fat-free. Right? Why did everything become fat-free? Because it's healthy for us, right? Yeah. And we don't like fat. And the alternative to fat that kind of came in through was that, like, don't use animal fats, right? They don't use saturated fats because saturated fats was bad for your cholesterol. And we don't want more cholesterol because the cholesterol is for your heart, right? Well, we'll definitely come back to that. But So vegetable oils came into fold, right, in the 1980s, really. 1980s, vegetable oils came in through there, and why was it really... We're not going to go to why, because the why is going to be the next part of the story. But what it was is that vegetable oil is fat-free. But what is vegetable oil by nature? It is a byproduct of the, what, petroleum?
Petroleum industry.
Petroleum industry, yep. So it's
It was a
oil that
waste
put oil out
product.
of the ground.
Well, it's a
Yep.
waste product, and we had to pay to dump it. And if we didn't want to pay to dump it, we thought, well, why don't we feed it to you all instead?
So that's right. And they said it's like, oh, that's kind of really, really good for you, you know? Really good for you. And that you can get all these benefits. A lot of the benefits that they talk about in regards to how it's cooked and prepared is all done at room temperature. All the benefits of like sunflower is done at room temperature. As soon as you start to heat it up, it goes rancid, it goes crap, it goes carcinogenic. Yeah, it's actually kind of bullshit in regards to that. Sorry, not French, but like the fact that they can still kind of push this and say that it's okay. So what it kind of means is like vegetable oils was really just kind of this push that kind of came in that everyone thought that was okay. But what vegetable oil is and a lot of seed oils are about, they're really, really high in omega-6s. Now, you may not listen to, I've heard the word omega-6 before, but omega-6 and omega-3, we both need them, right? Omega-3s, you've heard omega-3s before? They're from fish oil, right? Now, omega-3, we need them both, and omega-6, they're both part of the inflammatory cascade in through the body. Inflammatory cascade is really good for what? Healing, yeah? So we need omega-3, we need omega-6, and they both do different jobs. We've got a ratio, it's 1 to 4, 1 to 4. We need 1 omega-3 for 4 omega-6s, yeah? This is omega-6. Grains, nuts, cereals, high in omega-6. Super, super, super high in omega-6, right? Omega-6 in the body does inflammation. Omega-3 in the body does anti-inflammation, right? We need this balance of 1 to 4. But the sad diet, the standard Australian diet that we live in, with so much access to grains, with all the breads that we're eating, with all the vegetable oils that we're exposed to, with all the nuts and seeds and grains, the whole meals, like we get so much of the omega-6. This is, the ratio is 1 to 20. Now, if the body's receiving 1 to 20, right, it's got too much in there. It needs to keep on pushing this 20 down to 4, right? So pushing this down to 20 to 4, so therefore it is immediately just going to produce inflammation because we're exposing ourselves to so much omega-6. So the more omega-6 we have, we just have to do that. What's another way that we can offset and combat this ratio? If this is going to show up in our diet regardless, we can't avoid it. What do we need to do?
Give more free.
More omega-3. So who takes their omega-3s? They're essential nutrients, right? Essential nutrients. Our body requires it in order for it to function. It's not a marketing fad that omega-3s is just good for your brain health, it's good for your heart health, it's good for your bone health, it's good for your body. Like, we require it. Standard. Everyone. And that's not only just to survive the shitty environment that the industrial, the modern man's kind of exposing itself to. It is literally required for health. That's my little rant on oils.
Matt, before we go on, olive oil.
Yeah.
Virgin olive oil, best,
Yeah, that is one of the oils that still stands the test of time of being fantastic. Very, very stable at room temperatures. You will not react. It's not a grain oil, it's a fruit oil. Yeah. So, yes, drink it. Slobber it all over your salads.
Coconut oil, animal fats, traditional lards.
Coconut oil's good too, eh?
Coconut oil's
Yeah.
fantastic. Avocado oil is on that list. It's just one that doesn't quite cope with the same temperatures that saturated fats.
Good for
animals.
salads.
Yeah,
It's great.
Use it for salads,
Yeah, but just a little bit more caution with the high heating when you're cooking.
Olive oil. I heard that Italian olive oil is not as good as it used to be, so it's better to get like local olive oil. Is that something?
The problem with olive oil is that we sell worldwide 3 times as much olive oil as we produce. Anyone do the maths on that for me?
Adding something to it.
So we sell 3 times as much olive oil as we grow internationally, worldwide, in Australia, outside of Australia. So all of a sudden, some of this we're going to have to call BS on some of the olive oil is not olive oil. It's vegetable oil. It's been spliced with or it's been replaced with. So caution around your sources. And making sure you're choosing brands that are highly identifiable are going to mean that you've got a better chance. Or local producers. Yeah, Swan Valley olive oil from an olive oil farm, fantastic.
But yeah, olive oil is good. It has like really good frying and roasting temperatures.
Yeah.
Really, really stable. I think, and I'll talk about it in just a moment, is that like we kind of need to get back to the confidence of using animal fats again. Because we just got pushed back from that for so long.
My question was on margarine, obviously full of vegetable oils. In your supermarket, it has the healthy stars versus butter, which has got like 0.5 of a star.
Yeah, but do you know Milo gets 4 stars, everyone?
So it's just
Yeah. So my general rule when it comes to stars is if it's a food with stars on it, if your grandparents didn't eat it, don't eat it.
So
and recognise that the stars, you pay for your product to have stars.
Yeah, you pay for it, but it's also, it kind of meets a requirement. So it's now it talks about the stars is the Healthy Heart Foundation.
Yeah.
And the Healthy Heart Foundation sort of needs to, it's crazy that they're still doing this because it's so debunked science, but it needs to fulfill this like low in saturated fat, fills in this, you know, it's not going to do this X, Y, and Z, and it'll give it a bit of a tick. And that is so deceptive to people like yourself who are making health choices for you and your family to go through, and I'm going to navigate with this, and it is all bogus, right? And dangerous.
One of the worst foods.
It is. Margarine has to be one of the worst foods in the supermarket to eat. It comes out grey, it's got no nutrition, it's really highly inflammatory, and we know that it's known to be carcinogenic as well.
Now, the challenge is that it's spreadable, and then you're going to give it to your family, you're going to give them a block of butter, and they're like, I can't spread this, Mum. So,
even butter though, like
butter, leave the butter.
we should be having because that's also
Well, that's going to be cut with canola oil too to make it spreadable, right?
Yeah.
So ideally not. You just, let's get old school, buy yourself a butter bowl, put a butter on, leave the butter on the counter, leave it out, right? It doesn't need to be in the fridge. You know, kids will wake up, it'll be easy to spread. Maybe a little bit less in the winter, but no, you'll be fine. It'll be all good. And it'll just be that one day when you get it out for the first time where you're going to have to like carve it like cheese when it comes straight out of the fridge. But we've all been there.
Cheese peelers and cheese slicers will actually take the corners off it
And
very
then,
easily.
and then if they're anything like my kids, is that they have, I feel like they have like butter. Oh no, they have like a scone with their butter, or like, you know what I mean? Like they're the butter, like their butter ratio is like well off, and I'm like, hold on, and they're like just
50-50.
All right, we're going to cover a few things with soy.
Yep.
Have we done soy? No, we haven't.
No, we haven't done
What
soy.
is soy? Yep.
We haven't done soy. But to come back to soy and maybe alternative milks.
Yeah.
Generally. Okay. So soy is one of those ones that has come about, and there's been a lot of push for soy as a healthier alternative, plant-based alternative to, say, dairy. Okay. In terms of where it's come from and how it's ended up in our diet, does anyone think that soy would be better than dairy, worse than dairy?
Just what we hear, what I've heard, but I don't know, I wouldn't have a clue. Just,
Yeah? Anyone have an opinion?
There's a major hormone issue with it.
There is a major hormone issue with it, yeah. So soy started to become really prevalent in the 80s, and we saw it really take over. We started bringing it into a lot of alternative formulas because we were seeing a lot of babies with cow's milk protein intolerances and allergies. And that's where it really started creeping into the rest of our diet. And soy is one of those things that is anti-aging, and it is fantastic in the long-lived Asian cultures. The difference is in the long-lived Asian cultures, their soy consumption is like a condiment. How much mustard would you eat? That's how much soy they have.
Yeah.
Okay, and when they do have soy, they tend to have it as fermented soy, things like tempeh, which is highly digestible because it's already been, we were talking about this, broken down, it's got some enzymes in it, it's already pre-fermented, it's going to be something that's able to be absorbed by our gut, and it does have a high protein content. Now, we've started hoying soy into a lot of things. If you go into all the packaged aisles of the supermarkets, notice that everything's got soy in bold, in weird and wonderful foods that you would never bake in your kitchen and add soy to that. But it's because it artificially drives up the protein content. And I say artificially because we're not talking about fermented soy. We're talking about straight soy. Can we absorb straight soy? Any idea? Who wants to say yes?
Yeah. Is there a trend going on here
Who knows
tonight?
that this seems to be a trick question, and the answer is probably no. Okay, and the reality is that unless soy is fermented, you're not getting any nutritional value from it whatsoever. Okay, none whatsoever. But what you are still getting is a hormone exposure. It's got some really fantastic phytoestrogens, which is a really fancy word just to say a plant-based estrogen, but when it's in your body can't tell the difference, and it goes, oh, hi, estrogen. Okay, now why might that be a problem to be having a whole lot of estrogen? Did we hear a whole lot of stuff about HRT and maybe estrogen therapy being associated with an increase in cardiovascular events, strokes and heart attacks in women taking HRT, and that's a little bit of a concern? So you're having a hormone, and as a bloke, who would love to be taking estrogen regularly?
Yeah.
No?
What's your cup size like?
Why? Because the effects that we'll get from that, if we're having a very high consumption or reasonable consumption over an extended period of time, is gynecomastia, which is the lovely word for male breast tissue, that is genuine breast tissue. Yeah, breasticles, another great word. We are also looking at shrunken testicles.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
We're looking at sexual dysfunction. We're seeing a decrease in bone mass. We're seeing a decrease in muscle mass, and we're seeing a decrease in brain size. And because we're seeing a decrease in their testosterone that it lowers, we're actually seeing an increase in cardiovascular events because their heart muscles aren't as strong and powerful as they were before. So
That's just for men.
That's just for men. Now, what are we
Women
doing
like
for
estrogen
women?
overload and the consequences of...
You only have to look at the symptom list of estrogen dominance and go,
Yeah.
wow, I don't want anything to do with this.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. So the other thing is also that we don't think about it, we think about it with kids too. So if we're giving a baby soy formula because we're doing something healthy, or we're doing something as an alternative, or we're trying to go a plant-based diet for our child and we've decided formula's the right way to go for us and we've decided to put them on a soy-based formula, we're talking about estrogen content. Talk about a newborn. I'm talking 2 weeks old. It's not a heck of a lot of volume. How much estrogen are we getting? Because this is about the same as you having 1 latte a day or less. Who wants to take a stab? How much estrogen do you reckon we're getting in a newborn's kind of dose of formula, or in your soy latte? We're going to count it in estrogen pills, birth control estrogen pill equivalents. Who wants to throw out a number?
Too many.
Too many is a good number.
More than one.
Does anyone want to pick an actual numerical number?
10.
7? Keep going.
10.
Keep going.
Keep going. Throw a number out.
50.
How many? 20. We have a winner. Okay, your baby or your soy latte are giving you the equivalent of 20 birth control pills worth of estrogen a day. Who thinks that sounds like a great idea? Okay. Now if that baby's a boy, we've got a problem? Yeah.
Even that baby didn't like that.
Not interested in that.
Yeah, put me
Okay.
back on the boob.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening, I
Let's
think,
try life.
like a big
Wow, look.
big shift was that like...
The soy
I-
ones for sure.
So over the 90s and probably like the early 2000s, is that soy was really the only alternative. Agreed? You know, like a lot of people didn't want dairy, so they had soy, and that was it. And I think a big part of, let's say, that chapter is that it messed a lot of people up. And then now that we can kind of go to, let's say, a cafe, and there's way more options than just soy, would you agree? So more prevalent now, people are probably choosing almond or oat. Let's say they are less offensive than
Hang on.
soy.
No.
But
No.
oat is cut with
Oat.
canola oil, and vegetable oil to give you that same sort of texture and consistency, yeah. And almond too, obviously, kind of has its little bit of challenges. Let's say it's kind of less in the list, but it's still true. Yeah, I think almonds probably less. That's all I'd sort of find.
Almonds less, but because if you're having your oat milk latte, as a percentage of your latte, how much of it is vegetable oil?
Yeah.
It's about 50%. It's a lot, isn't it?
Black coffee
And then
sounds good, isn't it?
Black coffee's starting to sound better. Black coffee with maybe some, raw cream in the top sounds even
Yeah,
better
yeah,
again.
raw cream.
Okay.
Just let you guys know, raw cream, like
Sugar. Maybe a bit sugar. But
yeah, like raw cream
yes.
is not reactive. It's the fat. It's not
fat.
the protein, and it's not. It has very, very little to like no sugar.
Yeah.
So when you say raw cream, what?
Like whipping cream.
Just your normal cream in the cream.
Yeah.
Cream. Yep.
I don't think you'd have like a whole cup of it. Like I don't think you'll make a double
No, I know,
latte, but you can definitely.
But just
it'll definitely take all that bitterness if someone's not looking for that.
Lots of sugar,
couple of.
isn't it?
No,
Cream?
it's fat.
No, it's just fat.
Oh, okay.
It's just the fat
Yeah,
component.
and it's long chain fats if it's not heavily
So
processed.
people that are on like the ketogenic diet and things like that,
Yep.
and they just want to consume fat, they're having cream. They're actually just drinking it
Yep.
because it'll give them all satiety, give them the fuel. Yeah.
Just something for that sweet and stuff. For that, is honey a good thing, or is it sugar, a lot of sugar in honey, or is it all right?
Honey is just all sugar, mate. It's all sugar.
It is all sugar.
Yeah. But it tastes good. Like it's obviously got like all the natural components
It's
that kind of
good
come
stuff.
into it. It's all got the healing benefits depending on the flowers and like where they've you talk about jarrah honey. You can talk about lots of different sorts of types of honey, but it is like anything that's kind of. I'm not going to say anything that's sweet. There's lots of things that are not sweet that are sugar, but
It's a good alternative than the sugar, but
I don't think we should be scared of sugar.
Oh, is that right?
Like palm sugar, we just
tell
shouldn't be
different
just
stuff, like-
we shouldn't just be having it all the time.
Yeah, okay.
Sugar is a fuel. Our body requires glucose to kind of run. Our brain requires glucose, oxygen, and nerves to be stimulated in order for it to work. It's just that if you're not going to eat it, then your body's just actually going to break down protein, convert it into glucose anyway, so your brain can still function. So we still kind of need moments of sugar in our diet. Don't be sugar scared. We just don't want to consume it in humongous amounts.
Yep.
So let's see. So why? Okay.
What is this?
Food pyramid.
Food pyramid. Yep. Where did the food pyramid come from? Egypt? The food industry. Okay, any other guesses? Health department. Yeah, you'd think it was the health department. You'd think a government,
All that.
potentially. Do you know who actually developed the food pyramid?
Pharmaceutical.
Is that because it was always on the side of the got Kellogg's cornflakes?
Well, I just imagine that because I know that Kellogg's are the ones that are basically saying have breakfast cereals.
Yep, the bottom. This one in the pyramid, aren't they? It was actually developed by a marketing agency. It's got no science behind it whatsoever. They developed it and proposed it back as a solution for something that was happening after World War II.
So the country and the world at the time was devastated. Population was down, economy was down, just coming out of the depression of war, and as a result, no one had any money. And we're like, how are we going to feed everybody cheaply? Vegemite.
We also had a glut because what would ship overseas really well was at our standard breakfast of steak and eggs, which was the standard at the time. And that doesn't ship in shipping containers out to soldiers on foreign lands by a slow boat very well. But what ships really well via a slow boat is grains. No, we weren't that good with our canning in those days. But they were a bit dodgier with the seals. But we had an overproduction. We had converted all of our farming lands from what was grazing lands and had lots of cattle, etc. on it and livestock on it, and we converted it all to agriculture. And we had this huge glut of grains. And we went, well, we've got grains and we've got the grain infrastructure and we've got them in huge silos and we've got a huge backlog. And we need to get rid of it. And we need a really good marketing gimmick or a really good marketing ploy to convince people who are eating steak and eggs for breakfast to want to use this up somehow.
To use this. So it was a bit of a shift. And it was much cheaper because the government was going to subsidise it. So it was really cheap. It was really affordable. It would fill you up. It'll feed the people that are really poor and obviously up into the middle class. Everyone's just like, this is how we're gonna do it. I want you to know it was about moving food out to the people. Let's say genuinely, let's say that they did it from a state of we're just trying to feed everyone, rather than I'm not going to be let's say that was intentionally harmful because they didn't really look into that. It's just how can we just feed everyone?
It's
but it's been stuck, right? So that was developed at that sort of time. So basically, and I want you to know from a cereals point of view, particularly we always kind of laugh at the fact that they're cornflakes. Who had cornflakes in their pantry as a kid?
No.
Everyone.
Now, do you know the story behind cornflakes? Do you know who
Where
made
it came
cornflakes?
from?
Do you know that it was made?
Skippy cornflakes.
Yeah, Skippy cornflakes. Do you know that it was made by a gentleman who, Mr. Kellogg's, who was a Seventh-day Adventist, who was, religious man who had a religious camp for people, particularly, let's say, he would say is from a mental health point of view, people that are getting sideways, and in order to suppress their sex drive and stop them from looking outside the Lord, he would provide them with Kellogg's cornflakes, which he developed specifically to suppress their sexual urges.
Because we reduce your energy intake. By the end of the day, you'll be too tired to want to do any of that sort of stuff.
Did that work, mate?
Genuinely. Genuinely.
John Harvey Kellogg.
So,
John Harvey Kellogg, who was a Seventh-day Adventist,
correct.
was advised to come up with a portable type easy breakfast cereal.
Yeah.
His brother, who was the marketing, said, yes, we can do this, but we're going to add sugar to it.
Yeah.
Correct. He then
and John Harvey said,
took it
no,
further.
we're going to keep it pure, quality, highest, best stuff.
Yeah.
His brother won the day. John Harvey stepped out.
That's right, and then it's split and it's gone
then
down the other brother.
And then, more
that's-
nutritious eating the packet.
Yes.
Well, and this is the thing. So there's a great study
that
about
story, correct.
cornflakes.
That just added on.
And they had 3 groups. There was a group where the rats were all given vitamin water. All your daily vitamins needed, just suspended in water, no food. We're not going to feed the rats at all. And then the second group were going to get fed Kellogg's cornflakes. Then they went, probably need a third group. What are we going to do with the third group? Let's just give them the box.
Witty.
No, the cardboard box. The Kellogg's cornflakes cardboard box. So we've got 3 groups of rats. Now, which one survived the longest? Okay, who thinks it's Kellogg's cornflakes?
No.
Who thinks it's the box? Who thinks it's the vitamin water?
Yeah.
Okay, it's the vitamin water. But guess which one survived the next longest?
The box.
Every single rat that was eating the Kellogg's cornflakes had died prior to the first rats eating the box starting to die. So if you are eating Kellogg's cornflakes, or if you are feeding it to your kids as a breakfast cereal, okay, it might be worth reconsidering shredding the box and popping that in a bowl and seeing how you go trying to get your kids to eat that, because it would be an upgrade nutritionally. Okay, is that wild?
So wild. So let's kind of get back to this for a little second. So the pyramid came out and they told us to eat a bunch of grains on the bottom. Remember, 13 to 15 servings of grains and breads and cereals, all at the bottom of the food pyramid. Then it was veggies, then it was meats, then it was dairy, oils, lollies, chocolates, right? That was bred into us back at the Kellogg's, like it was, we seen it on the cereal boxes, and it was like for a long time, that was staple, right? And we'll call it the sad Australian diet, sad American diet. It was the same, it was pushed over all Western countries, really. So that kind of really fell out through the 60s. I'm going to give you another walkthrough time. Is that really in the 70s, Ansel Keys came out and sort of said the 7-country study, which is really 21 countries that he did a study in regards to saturated fat and cardiovascular disease events. What he did is he omitted 14 of the 7 countries to create a linear correlation of those that ate saturated fat had a high chance of cardiovascular risk, and those that had low saturated fat had a low chance of cardiovascular risk. He completely manipulated the study. He was actually rebutted multiple times on the presentation of bringing this study to let's say to the public in the 70s, and it wasn't until a bunch of other marketing companies and bigger food groups that came and started to push it, lift him up, lobby him pretty hard, and it then actually became common practice. It was actually out of so much noise that it became the thing. Time magazine came out there, saturated fat, butter is evil, butter will kill you. And then we led the whole 80s craze of fat is bad, right? Low fat this, low fat diet, low fat this alternative, vegetable oils. We cut fat out for so long. It just led all these other sort of things. Now, if you cut fat out of the food, like we did with milk, it tastes like crap. So what do you need to put more into it in order for it to taste good? Sugar. So more sugar comes in. So it's kind of 2 industries that are working really well to each other. Is this that okay, we sell sugar, we sell grain, and we do this. This is good for us. Yeah? It kind of works for us. And a marketing company can kind of pull these levers, you know, we can kind of do this, you know, sort of kind of restrain. Whereas like simply, if we kind of go back to the 1920s and 30s, what were we eating?
Steak and eggs for breakfast.
Steak, eggs, veggies, you know, like roast and 5 veg, you know, like we kind of, it was very simple food. There wasn't that much stuff that was in a packet that can last in the shelf. So everything that's been produced right now is all about stuff that's being processed. If you have to pick up your dinner and look on the packet to see the ingredients, to see what's in it, first of all, that's the first, that's the first part of the problem. But if you can read through that list and your grandmother can't identify anything that's said on that list, then there's a problem.
Yep.
So that kind of is in there. So fat comes back in. Fat comes back into fold. They actually kind of said in the late 90s, they sort of say, you know what, we were wrong. Fat is good. Fat is good. How many people are aware of that? We've been told not to have eggs, you know, cholesterol, Yes, I know. Adriana's giving us the come on, guys. Right now, it's 7:15 already. Okay. Yeah, these guys are going to go home like, what am I going to have for dinner?
Yes.
So,
what's on the menu?
So fat comes back. Animal fat is okay, right?
It's good.
But I tell you what, we are a public or a community, you know, that is still fat scared. I'll be honest, you know. People are still looking for the trimmings of their, not wanting to have, thin bacon. They're scared of bacon because bacon's fatty. They're scared of the animal fats. They're not wanting to cook in it. Like, everyone's got lean cuts, lean mince. Who looks out for lean mince? Yeah, they still sell it to us, right? Who cares? Premium, fatty mince. You want it.
No, you want the flavour in the fat.
Now, but I'm going to come back to fat. So fat in a bit of a way, fat and particularly animal products, right? I want you to know is now we're looking at the quality of the animal. Right? So if the animal is really healthy and it's grown really well, right, and it's grazed and sort of green, like pastured and those sorts of things, and it's led a happy, healthy life, the fat is perfect. If it has been a sick animal all of its life, thrown in with antibiotics, I'm going to call this the dirty bird, right? A dirty bird, right? So what I mean by that is that like an animal that's exposed to lots of sickness and toxins and illness is going to store all of its garbage in its fat, right? So we don't want to kind of consume lots of bad animal fat, and I know it's kind of hard for you kind of know that, but like generally we're pretty lucky in Australia. Most of our food sources are of good value, you know, particularly that. So we're pretty lucky in that sort of nature. So, but yeah, fat into our life is actually a really solid thing. For most people, we actually need to include more fat, more oils into our meals. Yeah, it should be protein, fat, vegetables. They're the things that you should be counting. Carbohydrates, I want you to think of as like the side part, the additional part, not the 50% of the plate. More fat, more oils, you know, and just be okay. Like don't separate it out, and you'll find that your satiety, your energy, you know, when the fat, like we burn fat. I can just keep on going. I'm going to stop talking. But we burn fat, right? Like we use one bit of sugar, and it like burns up like paper. Yeah, the fat in the body, like, it burns really slowly, really slowly, right? Yep. Yeah, the overweight epidemic and the obese epidemic that we're having in here, is that a fat problem? Is that because we ate too much fat?
Sugar.
No, it's sugar. It's stored energy in sugar.
And it's inflammation.
Yeah. So, I was going to touch on that. We touch on fat. We touch on where we are now. We are in... Okay, so there was one last little thing, because I want you to link in regards to who's benefiting from this. Because of, are food companies like the healthy, you know, like the stars that you're kind of looking at, like, they just want to sell their food. Yeah?
Yeah.
They put the stars in there. It's a marketing thing, agreed? Right? We walk down the freezer aisle and everything says 99% fat free. Why do they say that?
And it's a bag of snakes.
Yeah, like the Milo ice cream or the Milo cereal has it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Milky Pop ice creams. The pizza pockets, they've got the Heart Foundation tick. Pizza pockets. McCain pizza pockets. Isn't it?
Ignore it.
So it's I want you to know, like, this big food processing, right? Are they there selling us, are they there to keep us healthy? No. Is it their, well, I'm going to say it's their judgment, but yeah, it's a business.
Yeah.
They're there for money.
Profits.
So Big Pharma, Do they want to, like, is it of advantage for Big Pharma for us to be healthy?
No, because then we wouldn't eat all their rubbish food.
No, they're drugs.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
But they
want to earn money.
That's right.
So even Big Pharma, that's also in the industry of studying health and the side effects of health and the consequences of health. Are they interested in this?
Yes.
Well, kind of, right?
And heavily
Are
invested.
they supported this? Is there a relationship here?
Yes.
Huge relationship. Do you know there is the Food and Drug Administration of like America is together? That makes no sense. But it's one organisation that overlooks everything. Food and drug.
Keep everyone sick and on medication.
Winner.
Wouldn't they?
But where did Big Pharma come from? Big Pharma came from
Well,
tobacco.
where did Big Food come from?
Where did Big Food come from?
Big Food. When did we find out that maybe cigarettes aren't good for you, like they were saying for many, many decades?
There again, all the stuff.
Correct. And what happened? What happened when cigarettes started being pushed to the side and the profits of Philip Morris, etc., started going down? What did they then invest in heavily? They are now the major shareholders and the major owners of Big Food. Big Tobacco became Big Food. Do you think Big Tobacco cares about your health?
Well, they didn't really care about it. They actually got good alignment with the medical and health industry at the time when they were selling cigarettes, because a lot of the GPs were recommending cigarettes for weight loss, right? And it was actually okay. It was very supported. They actually had GPs, docs in white coats recommending us to have cigarettes.
But they put stuff in that as well, didn't they? Like cyanide, strychnine.
Oh, there was all sorts of garbage. Yeah. So that's what kind of happened. They then positioned themselves to go, okay, we are going to then move. We're going to, like, this company has obviously been coming down in regards to the tobacco. We're going to stop production in through there. We're going to purchase this company in regards to food, and then we're going to wind it up in a way from technology and understanding, chemicals and the like, no different to, like, let's say, the actions that they did with the tobacco industry. They're going to make the food, what, addictive, right? And ensure that you keep coming back for more. So they're going to market it in a way and have it taste in a way that you just keep on eating it. Nothing to do with its nutritional value. Now, this is just a processed food kind of challenge that we have, right?
McDonald's and all that.
McDonald's is another beast of its own in regards to just the food quality and the chain, in regards to making it sort of simple. But I just want you to understand, you know, if that's the case, if there is the link there and it's kind of better, and the mission is not to kind of keep us healthy, then really we're talking about foods. So if drugs are good, then more is better, right? Everyone's like, you weren't meant to agree with me. I don't get sucked into that one. But yeah, how much money have we spent on the healthcare system at the moment? How much money? Are we like trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars down the road of a healthcare system, and then we're no more healthier for it? Are we actually sicker than ever?
Yeah.
I've actually got more problems now. We're taking more drugs. We're taking more problems, more sleepless nights, more overweight, less wealth. Like, we're having to have more sick years in our life. Our life expectancy has increased, but more sick years. Yeah.
Well, our kids are the first generation. Our kids are the first generation, for those in the younger half of the room, who have a shorter life expectancy than their parents.
Wow.
We are actually going the other way now.
Yeah, that's the first sign of extinction.
Okay.
It's pretty scary, hey?
We had a head start with having the best food when we were growing up, whereas they've got processed right from the word go.
Yeah.
And our everything actually, with regards to our life, is hugely changed, right? Screen time, exposure, technology. You think all those things that kind of make us
crop spraying and all that sort of
everything that we think is maybe that is actually so toxic. Our life is so unnaturally stressful that it is far, far, far more harder to navigate and really create the knowledge and navigate yourself in through, what am I actually doing? What is actually kind of good for me? I acknowledge you all for being here for tonight, because you've actually taken a huge step in the right direction to inform yourself. So many people are outside numb, sleepless, they're just walking through like zombies and have no idea, are not conscious in the actions that they're making. So in these sort of things, when do you sort of stop taking these sort of medications? Are we doomed to be sort of stuck in that? I know so many of my patients, statins. Statins was there to take away cholesterol. Cholesterol was there because cholesterol is bad for your heart. Is cholesterol now good for our body? Yes or yes? Yes. Why are they still pushing statins? Right. Because. Pardon? Because it's money.
Yeah, but they shrink your brain.
Yeah, and like it has far more like side effects. You like
I was on all that stuff, statins and all that, and I cut them. I went on cayenne pepper, ginger, chewy.
Lemon.
I don't get gout, I don't get nothing, and I cut that medication right out of my life now. Honestly, that was all. And I was told that I couldn't go cold turkey. I'd have to keep taking them things because I was told by a doctor. I don't see doctors no more, you know.
They don't sell. None of these things actually sell. Like, okay, I feel let's take 1,000 people. 1,000 people, right? Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Take 1,000 people and put them into the healthcare system today, right? And let's say they have a comorbidity or a cognitive illness, right? They'll walk in through 1,000 people, and they'll get let's say they'll get looked after. In 5 years, are any of them healthier?
They're all sicker.
They're all sicker. They're probably taking more drugs, right?
Yeah. So on average, when you start taking one, you'll take 6 others to control the side effects of the one that you've started taking long term.
There is nothing that you can add in and I don't need to bash down GPs. Like medical system's good. There's if I was to get hit by a car right now or get involved in a car accident, take me to the ER, right?
Fantastic.
Acute trauma, emergency, look, that is wonderful, life-saving, right? But they do bugger all for when it comes to chronic illness and actually restoring health, right? Agreed? So if you take that 1,000 people, no longer healthier. Like there's actually nothing that they add in. There is no drug that can compete against a 30-minute daily walk. Nothing. Nothing is better in the literature. Nothing is better than just doing 30 minutes of walking daily. Crazy. You all agree?
Yeah.
I'm glad we're on the same page. That's what we used to do.
Yep. You take your bath or you walk.
So sickness is complicated, and I guess you're asking more questions, and that's really, really important, and that's your journey, right? Sickness is complicated, health is simple. Right? It's actually just making the easy choices. It's how we eat and what we eat. It's how we move and should be moving regularly, how we think, gratitude, forgiveness, healthy, positive sort of thoughts, and how we surround ourselves. How we eat, how we move, how we think, right? Like little steps like that actually is the foundation in the investment of back into the health that we do. That is the easy stuff. That is the easy stuff. This is individual, right? Everyone's got their story about all the junk in their life and how they got there. And everyone's got their own little ailments and similar things and how it's expressed. But everyone needs the same thing, agreed? Everyone needs the essentials. Everyone needs to be able to move. Everyone needs to be able to eating healthy. That's the easy stuff.
Bringing the Lord in my life to see the changed me, brother, that's fair dinkum. And I'm not talking about a little hairy, fairy one. It's awesome. Good.
Who wants to live to 94?
I was on the right.
No, 120.
No, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Well on the way.
So I put something. Everyone's got their number. It's got a bigger number, 120. Who wants to live to 94? Do you want to live to 94, Brad? No, why not?
Right.
Why not?
If you're well and healthy.
Sorry?
Oh, 120.
You're at 120. You want 120? Who doesn't want to live to 94? Well, why not? Well, if you didn't, everyone wants to be there? Yeah, everyone wants to be there.
The fellows of old, they used to live for 600 odd years, 700, 800, 900 years, eh?
Jeez. They must have a good chiropractor. So, look, I ask this all the time, and often the case is sometimes people say no, and it's just only because they look ahead and they're a bit scared of the idea in regards to what that 94 looks like. They've seen generationally the impact of the challenge that sort of happens, and they go like, I'm struggling with that for now, I don't want that for me, So, but if you want to do this, and you want to live to 120 and 1 to 94,
120 is a good number.
120 is nice and round. So, when's the right time to look after your health?
Now.
Always.
Yeah, always. Now. Much better, right?
Yesterday.
Yeah, true that.
It's not it's not 70, it's not 100. We're not going to wait to do it later. It's going to do it now. So, just to put it into context, is that for us, for the majority of the people that are here, they're involved in the practice and they feel and kind of understand that what we do. Jacqui and I, as chiros, our role is to really allow your body to function better again. And we know for a lot of people think of chiropractic as chiropractic is one of those things that's they're good at knees and exercise and rehab and those sorts of things. And to be honest, that's not our best. You know, that's not what we do. Like what we do really, really, really well is like the things that you know, like back pain, neck pain and headaches, getting health back into the spine and getting you moving again. Our expertise is in family care, you know, pediatrics, pregnancy, actually restoring health back into the family and growing like little ones all the way up to 120. And why we do that is that we give them the lifestyles, the resources. You know, doctor means teacher. And that's why we're here tonight. You know, like it's about passing on and giving you the tools and the skills to kind of keep you at your best. Yes, everyone comes in with an initial challenge, right? Everyone comes in with a pain, an obstacle, a challenge in their life that's getting them in the way of their goals of getting them back to their best. But our role as chiropractors is not only just to restore function and get things moving again, get things moving through a process and a pattern of healing so that everything can function better. For those that haven't been to a chiropractor, chiropractic is about the function of the spine. You know, it's about restoring that important, delicate network which travels from our brain to our body so our body can heal and function again. It's about our nervous system control. Everything in regards to trauma, poor habits, poor decisions that kind of manifest over time. Everyone's life is unnaturally stressful. Sitting is like sugar to our teeth. You know, like is like the sedentary lifestyle that we've like modernized so much movement out of our life is that as a result we're just becoming more rigid. What does rigid mortis mean? Rigid mortis, right, is death, right? Yeah. So everything that we're getting stuck in, getting jammed, getting stuck, everything that's manifesting in our spine, the slower, more sedentary that we get, we're extracting all this life out. Chiropractic is about giving you life back. It's about getting things moving again, getting your health and nervous system, it's restoring function again, getting the body healing, making everything turn on properly. But once we kind of turn it on, what's it important to do? Once everything's moving again, what's really important to do? Keep it moving. Absolutely, right? So we give you the tools and resources so that make sure that that the function remains, that we keep you moving and we keep you functioning at your best. Pretty cool, hey?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Pretty cool. And everyone's had, those that are here have had some amazing results and we're kind of really, really impressed and proud of and really, let's say, humbled to be able to serve and look after the community that we do.
It's good. I love coming here, mate.
Oh. We love having you. This is amazing. Okay.